All right, today we are talking about circles. I am on page 338 in your math book. You can use that to follow along as well with our math notes today. So when we're talking about a circle is a plane figure. Can't be a polygon because it's not made of line segment. It's a plane figure. And all points of the circle are the same distance from the center. No matter what point of the circle you're talking about, they're all the exact same distance from the center of a circle. Now, when we name a circle, when you want to name a circle, it is always named by the point in the center. So in this example here, we would name this circle C because that point is right in the middle of the circle. So this circle would be named circle C, just like that, simple as that. Now, there's a lot of different parts of a circle though, and they all have special names. So we're going to go through and talk about the different parts of a circle. So the first part is called a chord. A chord is a line segment with its endpoints on the circle. So they have to be on the circle for it to be a chord. A line segment with its endpoints on the circle. So if I take a look at this circle here at the bottom, this is the same circle that is in your math book, same circle that's in your math book. So if we take a look at this circle here and we think about what we just heard with the chord definition. So I know the definition of a chord says that a line segment with its endpoints on the circle. So if I take a look at this circle, I can see line segment here, LK. Both of those endpoints are on the circle. So LK would be a chord. If we look at here, MN, both of the points are on the circle of that line segment. So MN would also be a chord. CN can't be a chord. This isn't on the circle. CK, CL, none of those are chords because C is in the middle. It's not on the circle. In order to be a chord, the points have to be on the circle. So LK, MN are the only chords in this particular circle. Now, if we looked at the next definition on the circle, we have diameter. And a diameter is a chord, so it's just same definition that we just talked about. However, the difference here is though, a chord that passes through the center. So that's how it's different than a chord. A diameter is still a chord. The points have to be on the circle. However, not only do the points have to be on the circle, the chord has to pass through the center. So let's go back and take a look now at the same circle that we were just looking at. Take a look at this one. Same circle I was just looking at. Now, on the chord we talked about line segment, points are on the circle. So on this one we talked about MN being a chord and LK being a chord. But remember, diameter said it's a chord, but it has to pass through the center. So I already know that MN can't be a diameter because it doesn't pass through the center. But in this case, when I look at my LK, points are on the circle and it passes through the center. So LK is the only diameter on this circle. We already know CN can't be one because CN is not even a chord since it's C's in the middle, it's not on the circle. So the only diameter in this one is LK. You can have more than one diameter. It just so happens in this circle we only have the one. So MN cannot be a diameter because it doesn't pass through the center, so it's just a chord. But LK is both a chord because its line points are on the circle, and it's a diameter because it passes through the center. So diameter is a chord that passes through the center. All right, the next one we have, radius. The radius is a line segment with one endpoint at the center of the circle and the other endpoint on the circle. Totally different than the first two. So this is a line segment but one of the endpoints is the center of the circle. The other endpoint is on the circle. So let's take a look at our circle again. Okay, so if we're looking at it, the definition of the radius said one endpoint has to be the center of the circle, the other one has to be on the circle. So if I look at this, I know it can't be any of these ones that we just talked about, the LK or the MN, can't be any of those. One of the endpoints has to be in the center. Well, this one's in the center. This is the only point in the center. So if we take a look at the definition, a line segment with one endpoint at the center of the circle and the other endpoint on the circle. So if we take a look here, CK, that would be a radius. One is in the center, one is on the circle. If we look at CN, that would be another radius. C is in the center, N is on the circle. CL, that would be another radius. C is in the center, L is on the circle. M doesn't connect to anything here. M doesn't connect to C, so that can't be a possibility. So there are 3 radii. That is the plural word for radius. We don't say radiuses, we say radii. There are 3 radii on this circle. CK would be 1, CN would be 1, CL would be 1. Now, if we go back and look at our next definition up here, we have central angle. Central angle is an angle with its vertex at the center of the circle. So we know when we've talked about angles, angles have 2 sides, 2 rays, that are joined by a common vertex. The central angle of a circle, it's an angle and the vertex has to be at the center of the circle. Let's go back and take a look at our circle. So I'm looking for an angle and I know the vertex has to be the center point. So I know the vertex of any angle I talk about has to be C, because that's what the definition is. Central angle in a circle is an angle with its vertex at the center of the circle. So I see here KCN. Now I could say NCK, either one of those, but C is the vertex. So this would be a central angle because it's an angle with the vertex in the center of the circle. I also see LCN. Again, here's another angle, LCN. C is the central angle there. So anytime it passes through, the vertex has to be in the center. So there are 2 central angles there. Angle LCN because C is the vertex, and angle KCN because again, C is the vertex there. All right, last definition on a circle is an arc. And an arc is the part of the circle with all points on the circle, different than any of the other ones we've had. An arc is a part of a circle with all of its points on the circle. So let's take a look at what that means when we take a look. We'll go to my circle so we can take a look at the circle here. And we have the definition again, part of a circle with all of its points on the circle. So if we look here, this would be an arc, KN. All of its points are on the circle. Nothing is inside. KN is one arc. If we look at here, MN, right here on the circle, MN, you go from M to N. That would be an arc, MN, just like I just did NK as one. We also would have KL, KL. All points are on the circle, KL. And then finally, LM, LM. So on this particular circle, we would have 4 arcs. One here, one here, one here, one here. Now, if you were going to write this on your homework paper, but I know you're typing, so we're doing it a little bit differently. I just want to show you what it would look like if you were writing these out on how we write these. So if we took a look at the same circle that I just went through, and you were writing the chords, you would write LK with capital letters, and you would write the line above it to represent the chord. MN, same way, 2 capital letters, line above it. So on your homework today, you'll just type 2 capital letters. Diameter, since this only had 1, you write it the same way, 2 capital letters, line above it. Radius, 2 capital letters, line above it. When you look at the central angle, you make the angle sign first, angle, LCN, angle, KCN, still all capital letters there. Now, when you write the arcs, it's like a parenthesis that you've turned sideways. It sort of looks like a little arc. So you put the little arc above the capital letters on these when you're actually writing them. And we talked about 4 arcs on our circle. So arc KN, again, still capital letters though, arc NM, arc ML, arc LK. All right, so if we take a look at radius and diameter, the one thing I want to talk about with radius and diameter. When you're talking about radius and diameter, we talked about a radius went from the center to the side, and a diameter passed all the way through. So when we talked about radius and diameter, sorry, I'm drawing circles, we know that it passed all the way through if it was a diameter. And so if we look at these circles here, the first one would be a radius because it goes from the center point to an end point. So we call that a radius. It's only half the circle. But when we look at the diameter, we have the entire circle. It goes across the entire circle, including the end point. Now, hopefully, what you can infer when you're looking at these pictures is we know that the diameter is the entire length of the circle, and we know that the radius is half the length of the circle. So if this diameter was 16 inches, then we should know if the radius is half of the diameter, we should be able to figure out then, well, what would this radius be? If MD was 16 inches, what would CD be? Well, if I knew it's half, what do you think I should do? 16 divided by 2. So then I would know if this rate or diameter was 16 inches, then I know that this radius would be 8 inches because we know the radius is half of the diameter. Now, if we do it the other way around, if I have a diameter, a radius, not a diameter, if I have a radius here, and it's 5 meters, and I wanted to know what the diameter of this circle was, what do you think I would need to do? I know the radius is half of the diameter, and I have the radius, it's 5 meters. So what would I need to do to figure out the diameter? Down here, when I wanted to know what it was, I had the diameter and I had to divide by 2. Up here, I have the radius. What do you think I need to do? I need to multiply by 2. So if I know up here that this radius is 5 meters, then I would know this entire diameter is 10 meters because the radius is half the diameter. If this radius up here was 10 inches, what would my diameter be? 20 inches. We'd have to multiply it by 2. If I go back down here and I have the diameter and I want to know what the radius is, say this is 24 kilometers. What would my radius be? If I know I had a diameter of 24 kilometers, what would my radius be? It would be 12 because it would be half of the diameter. So radius is always half the diameter. If you know the radius, you have to multiply by 2 to get the diameter. If you know the diameter, you have to divide by 2 to get the radius. All right, let's take a look. I want you to open your book. Make sure your book's open to page 339. I have this circle drawn on my board from our book, and we're going to go through and we're going to look at some of these questions off to the side there so you can practice before you have to do your homework. All right, the first one says, name the circle and its center. Okay, well, that's 2 questions there. The first one says, name the circle. So I know the circle's name is going to be circle O, and then name its center. Well, the center is just O, so I'm just going to put O. All right, number 8 says, name 5 points of the circle. Well, points of the circle, guys, is not the center. So it's going to be every other point that's actually on the outside edge of the circle. So my 5 points, X, W, V, Z, Y. Those are the 5 points of the circle. This is the center, so that's a little bit different. All right, the next one, you're going to have this on your assignment, so we got to be careful. How many chords of the circle are shown? And then name them. 2 questions there. How many are there? That's a number. Then name them. This exact question's on your homework today. Remember, when we talked about a chord, it was a line segment with its endpoints that are on the circle. So the endpoints have to be on the circle. Can't be in the center. So if I take a look here, I see this is an endpoint, this is an endpoint, and it's a line segment. So X, so there's 1. So I'm going to write them out first, and then I'm going to decide how many there are. So XY is one of them. Then I look here, X to Z, both endpoints are on the circle. So I know XZ is a chord. All right. WY is going to be one as well. WY is going to be one as well. WY, both endpoints are on the circle, it's a line segment. It can't be anything with O, guys, because that's not on the circle. So how many are there? 1, 2, 3. That was the other part of the question. How many were there? Name them. So now I've done both of that. I said how many, and I named them. You're going to have that exact on your homework, so you have to make sure you have that number answer and the letter answers. It says, is XY a diameter of the circle, Y or Y not? So let's take a look at XY. So I see X and I see Y. What do you think? Diameter, no diameter? Not a diameter. Why isn't it a diameter? Because it doesn't pass through the center. WY is a diameter, XZ is a diameter, and that's it. This one can't be because it doesn't pass through the center, and it has to go the full length of the circle. So this one can't be either. Can't be a diameter. The next question then says, how many diameters of the circle are shown? I just named them. WY, XZ, WY, XZ, 1, 2, 2. So there's 2 diameters on this circle. How many radii of the circle are shown? So again, I'm going to wait and name them first, then I'm going to count and see how many there are. All right, so let's take a look at my circle. Definition of a radii. Radius is the singular, radii plural. A line segment with one endpoint at the center, the other on the circle. Oh, I see a lot on this one. OV would be 1, because it's at the center. OZ would be 1. OY. OX. OW, I'm going to have to write that one out here. Okay, yeah, that's all of them that I see. Those are all radius, guys. They go from the center to an endpoint on the circle. So how many total do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 radii in this circle. So you're going to be identifying these today exactly like that. You're going to have to name the circle. You're going to have to name points on the circle. You're going to have to do the same thing with the chords, put a number and name them, diameter name them, radii name them. This is exactly what's on the top part of your homework. So you can use this as a guide for that. Let's take a look at your homework sheet. All right, so the top part is exactly what we just did. I just showed you exactly how to do this.